Time to delve into the world of Todd McFarlane's character Spawn and my collection. So let's do it. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Yes, Spawn is a character you may be well aware of from the movie. I believe the movie was 1997. And I've been wanting to do this video for a little while now, show my collection of Spawn. I've amassed an array of figures for the character and a couple of others from that world. And yeah, I wanted to do this, and now seems like the appropriate time, because as this is airing, as I've aired this, in 24 hours time I am doing a watch party with Gareth over at Video Tasties for that movie, the movie of Spawn. Yes, we're going to watch it and discuss it. So I thought, what better way to lead into that than give you this collection video. I'm going to work through my figures and up to the movie, my steelbook and things like that, and a couple of other bits that I have that I've gathered along the way. So Spawn itself, Spawn the character, is the brainchild of Todd McFarlane. Now you may know the name Todd McFarlane because he now owns a toy company, McFarlane Toys, and at the moment they do all of the DC characters and the like, Mortal Kombat, things like that. So Spawn itself, what happened with Spawn? It's a character that came out of Image Comics. Now, Image Comics in the early 90s, a lot of creators, including Todd McFarlane, were unhappy at Marvel, were unhappy at not being in control of the characters that they've created and this sort of a thing. So they set up their own rival comic company, a comic company that still goes well today and has published comics along the way, like The Walking Dead. Image Comics. It came about in 1992, and Spawn was the second comic published under Image, their first being Youngblood from Rob Liefeld. Spawn was the brainchild, like I said, of Todd McFarlane. He's created the character, he wrote it, he drew it, and he's still involved in the comic to this day, plotting scripts and things like this for it, although he steps away from the drawing of it. But he has artists that are much akin to his style of art doing it, and it's a great comic. Now, I do read the comics. I'm a little bit behind on them, I will say that. I used to collect the comics back then when they first started. Then I kind of dropped the comic, and more recently in the past few years gone back to it, but I haven't caught up with reading them yet. I'm buying the omnibus editions to fill in the gaps. I do also collect the Scorch comic, King Spawn, and Gunslinger Spawn. These are other characters from the Spawn world. So what more is there to say about this character? The character's been around for about 32 years now. It's had that longevity. It's still continuing strong. There's a lot of love for the character. It's had, like I said, a live action movie. There is talks, and there has been for a long time, of a new live action movie occurring. Well, that always seems to be stuck in development hell. I think at the moment it's with Blumhouse. But Todd McFarlane have given them an ultimatum to get it done, basically. And we've had an animated series for Spawn as well, with the character being voiced by Keith David. And it was a very dark, gritty take on the character, much akin to the comic books. And yeah, so what more is there to say other than, well, let's get into this. So I need to go to my other room and set up, and let's take a look at the characters that I've picked up. And yeah, let's just do it, shall we? Let's get to it. Okay, so first up, this figure here. These figures are all from Todd McFarlane, from McFarlane Toys. This is a Spawn variant from the Mortal Kombat line. This is much larger than your standard figures. It stands a lot taller. almost to a foot in height. And it's a nice piece. Yeah, from McFarlane Toys. You can see the detailing as it spins around. This is the main character, Spawn, obviously. That goes without saying. Now this character here is Spawn's arch nemesis, and you may recognise it from the film. This is the Violator. Obviously he did look somewhat different in the film, but the design is pretty spot on, just a lot sort of sleeker and slimmer in the legs and the back. And again, from McFarlane Toys, it's a large one, about 10 inches in height, and fabulous detailing on it. And I will say that this figure is extremely heavy. This has got one hell of a lot of weight to it. It is a solid piece. Now here we have the character of Cygor, another character from the pantheon of Spawn characters, and again a larger piece with again great detailing. I won't say that anymore. Todd McFarlane Toys, all of them have a fantastic detailing, and this here is a behemoth of a figure. Again, like the Violator one hell of a lot of weight to it. Nice one in the collection. All the figures here out will be boxed. They are the only ones that I have actually unboxed. And here we have a Spawn and Batman. Batman and Spawn have had a couple of crossovers over the years. Probably about 25 years ago, something like that was the first ones. Image done a crossover. DC done their own version of a crossover, and more recently the two characters have teamed up again in a prestige format release that I do have, and we may take a look at towards the end of this video. I reiterate that they are all now boxed at this juncture. And here we have another large boxed one. This is Spawn, classic sort of look for Spawn, and his throne. Todd McFarlane art on the back of the box there. And what I generally do with these, I hang them from the wall. They are hung up because it's just a nice, easy way of displaying them. Now this next figure, this is Mandarin Spawn, and I picked this up because I managed to get it very, very cheap. It's not necessarily a character that I particularly like the look of, but it was cheap, and just I got it to include in the collection of figures. And here we have a ninja variant, Ninja Spawn. And again, nice looking character. You do find that there are a few of these variants. This sort of different type of spawns that pop up from different eras, from different cultures in the comics. Then we have the Dark Redeemer. The Dark Redeemer himself, which is more of a knight kind of aesthetic character. As you can see, again, the big wings attached to it makes it, you know, something stand out, something special. Good character. And now we have a character called Nightmare Spawn, as you can see. Again, winged. Kind of speaks for itself. Yeah, and I like that one. Well, I like all of them. I'm biased. Then we have King Spider. And as you can see, I picked this one up for $9.99 in the Forbidden Planet. So again, one that I got rather cheap. And here we have a character called Haunt, which is a support character from the comics. He actually had his own limited series comic as well for a short time. I think it ran something like a dozen issues, if I recall correctly. Yeah, Haunt. And I like this character. I like the design. I like the look of him. Yeah, very good. And next up, Raven Spawn. Again, another one. Different variation of Spawn. Now, from Mortal Kombat, obviously Spawn is a playable character in Mortal Kombat 11, as you can see, and this is a range of figures now that have been created from the designs and the different variation of costume that you get in those games. This one is Shadow of Spawn. And now a sort of blue coloured variant with a blue aesthetic to him. I've not actually played the game. I've not played it as a playable character. I don't play games, but I do like the figure range for them. Now with this next one, you can see that it's got some sustained damage to the box, which is highly unfortunate, but I managed to get this one very cheap for that reason. It was one of the first Mortal Kombat ones I picked up, and I think I actually picked it up for $4.99 if I recall. You know, when I can pick them up at that price, it's a shame about the damage, but you know, for £5, I'm gonna grab it regardless of that. And next up we have Commando Spawn. Much like that bigger character I started off with, which is a larger version of this. Yeah, this is just the smaller version of that same character. Or that same variation, I should say. And here we have a gold label version. A yellow variant of the character. Quite striking with the yellow. Especially when, I think there might be I may be wrong, there might be a blood splatter version where you've got, and on that the blood would stand out pretty well. I may be wrong on that though. Now this is my last Mortal Kombat 11 figure. Another nice addition, more of an armoured look to him. Like I said, I can't do context out of the game, other than it would be a suit or whatever you call them. What's the game term for that? I can't recall. Skins. It's a skin. So yeah, so that's another Mortal Kombat 11 one. Now in the past couple of years, getting his own comic, Gunslinger Spawn. There are two versions of this. You can get another version that has a Gatling gun, I believe. And I believe you can get a horse to go with the character. Or does the character come with the horse? Yeah. Gunslinger Spawn. And now we have a female version of Spawn. She-Spawn. One of the main contenders in the Scorched comic book currently, and if you remember in the film, you've got that female character with the dark hair. This is her in the comics. What happened to her later on down the line? She became a Spawn. So that sort of does it for the current era of Spawn toys. And I've got one more character to show, one more figure that is a bit of a step back in time. I neglected to mention, sorry, that this character's name, this is the character of Jessica Priest, or Priest, that went on to become She-Spawn in the comics. So next to that one, that step back in time character. Now this character here, this is a version of Spawn based upon his look in the movie, in that 1997 movie. So this figure came about then, at that era, in the late 90s, from a range that were done based upon the movie. For Blu-ray release, so this is the UK sort of just bulk standard Blu-ray release for the movie. I do like that poster art on that. I do like that a lot. And this one here, this is the Region 1 release. However, this isn't a Blu-ray inside. This is actually the old DVD, American DVD. What region is that? Region 1? Yeah, this is the American DVD inside. I just used this case to house that in. Yeah, and again, I like the front art style for this one. I think the character looks pretty cool. And this is a German steelbook for the movie. As you can see, I haven't removed the J card. It's still stuck at the front. But I've undone it at the back just to show you what the front and back looks like. No art on the inside. This is quite a rarity, this steelbook. It's quite hard to come by. It commands quite a price if you wanted to pick it up now. Luckily, I picked it up years ago when it didn't cost too much. And just to reiterate, this is the movie that I will be watching with Gareth tomorrow night. Video Tasties, 7:30 PM. Join us there. And this here is the Region 1 DVD of the TV series, the animated series, which was Spawn 2 and Spawn 3. It consisted of 18 episodes, and this is a digitally remastered set, and it also has over 3 hours of bonus content included on it as well. As I said previously, Keith David voiced the character, and his vocal tones really brought this character to life, I will say that. Now, even though I have the individual comics early on, probably the first 100 issues, they are in a box stashed away somewhere. I've recently been picking up the compendiums as they've been released, and these publish or reprint 50 issues at a time. Let's have a quick gander. So I don't know how well that can be seen, but yeah, they publish about 50 issues at a time. There's a night version of Spawn there, as you can see. And volume 6 is out later this year, towards the middle of the year. So we have Compendium Volume 1 there, as you can see. I won't flick through them. Then we have Volume 2. Volume 3. Hefty, phone book style. Volume 4. And last but not least, there we have Volume 5. And as I said, the latest volume is out at the mid part of the year. I do currently have it sat on pre-order, waiting for it to come. Next up, I'm going to look at some comics, but I've only picked like the first issues of stuff and things like that. Although I do have the first lot of these as individual comics, they are buried in a box somewhere. Yeah. And then we have Haunt. These are the graphic novels for the character of Haunt. Like I said, it lasted I don't know, dozen issues or so, something like that. Maybe a bit more. I'd say a bit more, judging by about 18, 19 issues, I think. That is Haunt, so that's volume 1. Then we have volume 2 there. Volume 3. And volume 4. Now, a couple of, just to have a look at a few issues. Quick look. This is issue 1 of Scorched, which is the sort of team up, more of a team up Spawn book, I would say, if that makes sense. There's Gunslinger Spawn and the Medieval Spawn there. And again, they've always had decent art in. McFarlane always gets decent artists for his comics. Obviously, art is subjective, isn't it? Then we have issue 1 of Gunslinger, drawn by McFarlane himself. The Western era sort of Spawn. Then we have King Spawn. There. Again, great cover on that. And these are still some of the cheapest comics on the market. And there was Haunt in there, the character of Haunt that we just looked at. And we have an issue of Spawn Universe. And this was kind of like an introduction to goings on. As you can see, there's Cygor, the gorilla. Yeah, this sort of Spawn universe led into the goings on. Now, like I said, Batman has teamed up with Spawn, and here I have issue 130 of Batman. This is actually a Batman comic. But to sort of celebrate the coming together of the characters again, this issue of Batman was actually given a Batman and Spawn cover, much in the style of Frank Miller's Dark Knight original cover, where you had the Batman and you had all the lightning striking behind him. And here we have a hardback graphic novel collecting the two classic Spawn and Batman crossovers. Like I said, one was done by DC Comics and the other was published by Image themselves. Now the artist, this is the DC version, and you've got Klaus Janson is the artist in this. Now Klaus Janson used to be an inker for Frank Miller, and his art is it's an acquired taste, I would say. I remember his work on The Punisher, and I remember he actually done the Terminator 2 Judgment Day comic book adaptation. So yeah, his art is very sort of sketchy looking and scratchy, best way to describe it. But then if we go to the version that was done by actually done by Image, this was written by Frank Miller himself with art by Todd McFarlane. Sorry, and as you can see, it's got that more sort of Todd McFarlane stylized kind of art in it that McFarlane is known for. And then more recently, the two have teamed up again, and I did pick up a few versions of this actually. I won't lie. So first of all, we have that cover there, which is the Spawn towering over the Batman. Then we have a variation on that, which is the other way around. Batman over Spawn. Another nice cover there, variant cover. The two characters. And then we have this one here, which is apparently a glow in the dark. But it doesn't particularly glow in the dark very well, I will say that. And here we have pencils by Greg Capullo and inks by Todd McFarlane. It is written by Todd McFarlane, but as you can see, Greg Capullo's art is very Todd McFarlane-esque in style. The only annoyance I had about this is that it's written for people that really haven't read the originals, because again, these characters meet up and it's like they've never met before. So but there is almost 30 years between, 25 years between the team up, so I do understand that. And then I have Batman Spawn Unplugged, which is a sort of sketch before it had been coloured, before it had words put into it, and it's just like a nice addition to that, so to speak. And then for the last item that I will show in my collection video, it is the making of book from that very film, from the movie of Spawn. And I remember I used to pick these, you know, I've got a wealth of these sort of books. I remember whenever a new film came out that interested me or like the look of, I'd likely pick up a making of book for it in my days up at, well, I still visit Film Planet now. Still in a great condition. There's Jessica Priest in the film, who went on to become Lady Spawn. And like I said, I'm looking forward to the sit down and watching this with Gareth. Production design there. Character designs. Makeup being applied. The Violator, as you can see, a lot more slimmer at top and longer than the figure that I showed. But I've always been intrigued by the design. I always liked the design of the character. I didn't think it looked bad at all. So there we have it. Spawn. Okay, so there we go, folks. There we are at the end. Obviously, it isn't a comprehensive collection because I have all the individual issues of comics that I could have shown. But that would take forever, so I'm not going to get into that world of it. But yeah, the character of Spawn is a character that I most definitely have an affinity for. As poor as this film actually is, I love it. I love the film. But I acknowledge that what I'm watching is not a very good film. And obviously they seem to run out of money at the end for special effects. The effects for Malebolgia, the devil thing in it, look god awful. And some of it comes across like a PlayStation 2 game. But like I said, it's a character that has now gone on to have nearly 35 years of longevity in the comics without breaking. You know, it's always been a consistent comic coming out. It's always been there on the shelves. It's spawned a universe of characters within the comics. You've spawned the movie. You've had the animated show, and the reason that there's so much trouble getting a new movie off of the ground is because the rights are completely owned by Todd McFarlane himself, and he kind of has final say as to what works and what doesn't work. And the guy wants to direct himself. He's shown interest in directing the movie himself. Now, me personally, I don't necessarily like that idea. The minute you let Frank Miller direct a film, Spirit, it was god-awful. Okay, he worked alongside Robert Rodriguez on the Sin City movies, and it worked. You had Robert Rodriguez as the director. But when you've got a person who comes from a comic book background, doesn't really have the knowledge of filmmaking, I think it's better that you work in a capacity as an maybe help in the directing department, at least, you know, be there for a director for hire and try and get things compromise between things, someone who knows what they're doing, and work it like that. At least a consultant, be the consultant on it and say this, that. Do you know what I mean? But Todd McFarlane, he holds the strings. he has that carrot dangled on a string, and a lot of people don't want to buy it. They don't want to buy it. But there we go. Anyway, so that's Spawn. Like I said, I've been meaning to do this for a while. I'm glad that I finally have got around to doing it. That makes me quite happy. So let me know in the comments down below what you think of the collection, if there's a particular figure there that stood out to you, your thoughts on the movie itself. Is it something you've got in your collection? If so, what version? Let me know. And yeah, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care all, and goodbye.